Hare Krishna. It's allergy season in Alachua. I'm going to try to survive. I'm going to try to survive through this. It's August, and I'm allergic to something here. I'm not sure what it is. But I have this little Ayurvedic medicine. It has some camphor in it. And it seems to help. I've got this new microphone, so can you hear me? Make sure I set it up correctly. Just need to know if you can hear me. I feel like a walking volcano of sneezing and itching. Excuse me for that. I want to continue from yesterday's class. So, I just want to make sure you can hear me. I sold my other microphone in Mayapur and we just got another one. Less expensive. I don't know if it's as good. But it's better than the phone microphone. And so I just wanted to make sure you can hear me. I'm not just moving my mouth and you are hearing nothing. So, in preparing for today's class, I found a letter, and I just posted this letter on Facebook. And I want to read it and discuss it because I think it hits on some essential points that we need to deal with. And then I want to read some things that Prabhupada said, very encouraging words, and to kind of show you how Prabhupada was seeing us, because I think we sometimes see ourselves differently than how Prabhupada sees us, and he might be seeing us in an appreciative way, and we might be seeing ourselves in a very negative way, a way in which he's not seeing us, in a way in which he doesn't want us to see ourselves. So, if you scroll down somewhere on Facebook, you could read this letter. As I just posted it about, 15 minutes ago, perhaps. I forget the situation, and I forget who I wrote to. That's not important, but you can kind of understand that the devotee that I'm writing to is feeling inadequate in some way, not feeling perfect. And a lot of us, sometimes, we just feel inadequate. We see others doing better than us, doing better service or more talented, and we might feel inadequate or not feel intelligent or sometimes feel useless or worse than everyone, and in a way that discourages us. So that's how this letter is addressed. And that's the nature of the person I'm addressing. You have analyzed correctly that you understand with your head that you are okay, but don't feel that you are perfect enough. In other words, sometimes when someone feels inadequate, or when they compare themselves to another person and they see they're not as capable or as intelligent or whatever as the other person, they feel sometimes inadequate. But at the same time, they can objectively analyze themselves in their life to see that they have many good qualities and they've been successful in many ways, both materially and spiritually. So you have an analysis with your head which says, I have done good things, I'm okay the way I am. But your heart feels differently. So as long as your heart feels differently, it doesn't matter objectively. You could be the most intelligent person, and there are many intelligent people that feel themselves not intelligent. There are many beautiful people who feel they're not beautiful. There are many devotees who are very good devotees, very sincere, who feel when they compare themselves to others fairly inadequate or even useless. But with our heads, we can say, no, I've done this, I chant my rounds every day, I rise early and so forth. And I've done so much service and been successful in so many ways, or at least done many things that wouldn't indicate that I'm useless or imperfect or whatever I'm feeling. So what's going on objectively in your head, when you can analyze, and what's going on in your heart are often different. And what you feel determines your attitude, your actions, and then your thinking. Because you can think that I know what's wrong, I know I'm not bad, but you feel bad. And there's reasons, we'll discuss why you may feel this way. So as long as the feeling is there, it doesn't matter even objectively if you can acknowledge that I'm not as bad as I feel I am. Because the feeling is what's dictating your whole perception, and as we know, emotions guide our behavior. So even though I understand I'm not that bad, if I feel bad, then it's going to have very detrimental effects on me. So that's a very important point. Of course, you might say, okay, what do I do if I feel that way? Well, we'll get into that, and we want to look at why you may feel that way. And also, as I said, just investigate how Prabhupada sees us, because he doesn't feel that way. You have analyzed correctly that you understand with your head that you are okay, but don't feel that you are perfect enough. So this devotee was saying, I could be more perfect, or I feel imperfect. This is because of beliefs. And when you change the beliefs to something along the lines of quote, I am fine the way I am, then self-esteem will no longer be an issue. So I think this devotee is suffering from perfectionism, the need to be perfect, as opposed to the way I am, although I'm not perfect, nobody is, it's okay, because I can engage in normal social affairs and I can engage in Krishna consciousness even if I'm not perfect. So the problem here is that what has been impregnated within this devotee is that they're not perfect and they need to be perfect. It probably has come from their parents, it could come from religious leaders, it could come from teachers, it could come from comparisons of themselves to others. They may have been told, you should be like another person. So it could impregnate this idea that I'm not perfect enough. Or some people, just by nature, it's their personality type that they feel they need to be perfect. Of course, no one is perfect, and Prabhupada didn't expect us to be perfect. He did expect us to follow certain principles, but Prabhupada never said, I expect you to be perfect. He wanted us to try our best. And you could say in Prabhupada's eyes, or in Prabhupada's vision, the effort to be Krishna conscious was in itself a kind of perfection. Because a lot of times we're looking for external perfection, and you're not going to get external perfection until you reach prema. At least by definition, that's the perfect state of Krishna consciousness. So until we reach prema, we're always going to be in an imperfect state externally. But that's not what Prabhupada looked at. And Prabhupada looked at our endeavor. That's, excuse me. If Prabhupada expected us to be perfect, he wouldn't have initiated us. And initiation means beginning. So initiation is a chance. Prabhupada said first initiation is a chance. We give it fairly liberally because we're giving people a chance. A chance at what? A chance at becoming perfect. And Prabhupada was willing to accept us with all our imperfections. So it follows that we should accept ourselves in the same way. A lot of people suffer because they feel they're not perfect, or a lot of people suffer because they feel they're not as good as someone else. They look at another devotee and think, well, that devotee is so much more qualified than I am, or so much more Krishna conscious, or so much more humble, or more compassionate, or whatever. And then, by looking at the good qualities of that devotee, we tend to not look at our good qualities, which may be different, but we tend to look at the lack we have in comparison to that devotee. And for them, we focus on the negative, and then we can kind of feel inferior, feel bad, feel discouraged. I have a nice story. I may have told you this story before, but I think it relates to this. I had a friend, and every few months he had a different girlfriend. And I was thinking, he must be really happy. Because every few months, I don't have a different girlfriend. Actually, for many months, I don't have any girlfriend. I don't have any girlfriend. And of course, for a teenage boy, that's it's a strong desire. And every few months he has a new girlfriend, and they're all beautiful. So I was thinking, oh, I'm so miserable, and he's so happy. And I was jealous of him. And then one day he told me, he said, I'm just so depressed. And I never forgot it, because I was thinking he must be so happy because he's always surrounded by girls. But actually he was really unhappy, probably because he couldn't stay steady with one, he couldn't love one, probably it was all about lust. He wasn't finding satisfaction. So in the same way, when we look at someone who has qualities we don't have, or intelligence we don't have, or abilities we don't have, a lot of times we think, well, there's something wrong with me, and their life is better, and their consciousness is better, and everything about them is better, when in fact that's not necessarily true, just because someone's more intelligent. Or in some cases you perceive they're more intelligent, and they may not be. But let's say, for the sake of discussion, they are more intelligent. It doesn't mean their life is better. It doesn't mean they're happier. It doesn't mean they're more Krishna conscious. But we make these assumptions. And so sometimes it makes us feel bad to be around someone who we perceive as better, because we think, oh, everything about them must be better. And I think this is also a symptom of our modern culture, in which, we've been programmed by all the advertisements to feel like there's always something better, and we're always in need of something, and where we are presently is insufficient. That dissatisfaction creates the need to buy something we don't need. But it infiltrates our consciousness in so many ways, because there's this idea that we need more to be whole. So it's not just products, but we can look at other people and think, I need to be more like them to be whole, and until I am, I'm not satisfied. Which in some cases is okay if you handle it properly, because it can be an impetus to be better. But in many cases, it just makes us depressed. Well, I'm not like them, so I feel bad. I could feel I'm not like them and become inspired to be like them. So that's great, right? That's positive. But if I see that I'm not like them and then I become discouraged, that's the wrong way to think. And I think a lot of that has been programmed into us. For example, today, movie stars, rock stars, sports figures, and models are prominently displayed on the internet and on magazines. So what happens is we get to know these people because we're always seeing them. So people who read magazines about movie stars, or read about beautiful men and women, athletes with amazing bodies, amazing faces, and then airbrushed and photoshopped in a way to look even better. They start becoming almost like our friends, and they start becoming a standard for us. So these people are rich, they're famous, and they're beautiful. So rich, famous, and beautiful becomes a standard. And how many people are that rich, famous, and beautiful? Very few. And so we think, oh, they're so rich, they're so famous, they're so beautiful, that makes me poor, that makes me infamous, it makes me not beautiful, even though you may be fine, materially speaking. You may be attractive, you have enough money, and you're successful at what you do. You're good at it. But when you compare yourself to them, you're going to look pretty bad. And a lot of what you're comparing yourself to is just an image because you don't know them. And a lot of those people are pretty miserable, even though they may be attractive. And actually, a lot of them are not that attractive, but they spend a lot of money to make themselves attractive. And Photoshop helps them look more attractive. So we have these false images of what attractive is or what success is. And if we allow ourselves to compare ourselves to them, or for devotees, also comparing ourselves to other devotees who maybe for lifetimes have been Krishna conscious, and this may be our first life or second, and they're very advanced, and we can't be like them, and we're not ever going to have very, very soon the qualities that they have because they're special. It could make us feel like, well, their standard is the standard. And then we start becoming discouraged or even hating ourselves. So we have to be careful. There's some devotees who are very advanced. There's some devotees who are extremely intelligent. I was just saying yesterday, I was looking through this book of Tamal Krishna Maharaj. Kind of went through his whole life. He's a great inspiration for me. And I spent a lot of time with him and kind of studied him and how he did things. And he could analyze situations very quickly and very clearly. He could figure people out within minutes. He could know exactly what to do and what not to do. It's kind of like he could see the future, that this is where we're at today, but in 20 years it's going to be like this and we need to start working for it. And it came very easily to him. And he could manage big projects very, very easily. And he could motivate a lot of people and get a lot of people to help him. Everybody can't be that way. Everyone's not going to be that intelligent. That's a gift that he had. Everyone who was with him knew that he had extremely vast intelligence. So I could be inspired by that, or I could be depressed by that. I think, oh, I'll never be that intelligent. I'm so stupid, and I can't, do what he did. And it's true. There's many things he did that I can't do, but there's many things he did that you can't do. But there are things that I can do that he can't do. There's things that you can do that he can't do. And so it's not a competition of trying to be better. It's just a recognition that Krishna has given me certain abilities, certain intelligence. And rather than lament that I can't be like Tamal Krishna Maharaj, why not utilize my ability and my intelligence and to do what I can do? Because there are things that I can do, there's things that you can do that nobody else can do. Or many people can't do. Or you have specialized ability and intelligence. You may not even be aware of it because you could be too busy looking at what you can't do. So that's a problem. And many of us do that. And at the same time, we don't want to become puffed up and proud and think, I'm better, because that's just the opposite of thinking I'm inferior. They're both wrong. It's not that I'm better and it's not that I'm worse. It's just, this is what I am. This is what Krishna's given me. So let me use this, be successful using my good qualities, my whatever intelligence Krishna has given me. And whatever intelligence he hasn't given me for certain areas of life where I won't be successful, that's okay. I can't utilize them. But let me utilize what I can be. And not create a vision that I have to be like everyone else. I have to have the same level of intelligence or the same level of dedication. I maybe like to have it, but at the present moment I don't have it. I aspire for it. It's good to aspire for it, but not to regret or lament that I don't have it, because that can be a very negative way of thinking. There's very negative consequences on this. So let's continue reading. I am fine the way I am. If you think that way, then self-esteem will no longer be an issue. Don't just like, talk about my self-esteem, which means my sense of self-worth, my sense of self-confidence, my sense of feeling that I am of value. So lack of self-esteem means kind of I'm feeling very negative about myself, negative about my self-worth and my abilities. So Krishna created you a certain way. Not everyone's a Brahmin, not everyone's a Vaishya, not everyone's a Kshatriya, not everyone's a Shudra. Most people actually are Shudra, but in Kali Yuga, most people aren't even Shudra, because Shudra is within Varnashram. There's a certain lifestyle. So because there's no Varnashram in the Western world, we can say people have the occupations of Brahmins or Kshatriyas, Vaishyas or Shudras, but they don't have the qualifications. But anyway, for the sake of this discussion, another point, but for the sake of this discussion, we see that people have different natures. You may not have such a Brahminical nature. You may have more Kshatriya nature, you like to manage, or Vaishya nature, you like to do business, or Shudra nature, where you like to serve. You're not so independently minded, you're just happy to help others in doing what they're doing. Or we all have various natures. And so the mantra is that this is how Krishna created me, let me use it, it's okay, I don't have to be like someone else. So that's the problem, that you have some good quality and you're meditating on someone else. Because as I said, the media has made us feel like there's a person we're supposed to be like, and they're supposed to be very thin. If they're male, they should have big muscles. Like I'm going to have big muscles. Like, could you imagine? I have this little body, like how big could my muscles ever be? So what am I do to lament that, I'm, and drink protein powder to gain weight? I don't gain weight. I could eat 100 pizzas. I don't gain weight. So I should lament that I'm not a muscle man? Of course not. This is, Krishna's given me a Brahmin body. I am not meant for lifting heavy weights. I'm a Brahmin. Don't ask me to lift anything. So Krishna has given us different abilities. Some people are very strong. They can do hard work. Most of us, we try to do hard work. We'll just get tired. But other people, they can do it all day. They have bodies for that. And some people are just good at making money. And it's like, making money is so easy for them. It's not a problem. It's just easy. That's their Vaishya nature. And other people, it's a problem. They just get a headache thinking how to make money. They get any ideas. It just seems impossible. So we all have different natures. And if we meditate on the nature we don't have, if we look at people who have another nature and say, oh, I wish I had that nature, that can create a very negative connotation because we're not accepting who we are. And just like Bhagavad Gita, Arjuna wants to be a Brahmin, and Krishna says, no, you're a Kshatriya. Don't try to be someone you're not. So it's not wrong that you're a Kshatriya. It's good that you're a Kshatriya because you can protect. It's not wrong that you're a Brahmin or Vaishya or whatever your nature is. You have certain intelligence or you lack certain intelligence. You have certain abilities, other abilities you lack. It's okay. My father was an artist. I'm lucky I can sign my name and you can read it. So it's nothing to lament about. I don't mind. But I have other abilities that I can use for Krishna. So that's the idea, that it's really important to understand when you see another devotee who has qualities that you don't have, there's basically two reactions. Well, I can say there's three reactions. One reaction is get inspired and say, that devotee inspires me, I'd like to be like them. One reaction is I feel bad because I'm not like them. So why don't I have those qualities? Will I ever have those qualities? Maybe I'll never have those qualities. It's a very negative way of thinking. And the third reaction is just become envious. I don't like you because you remind me then I don't have these qualities. Although you have so many other good qualities. Yes? So that's a very common problem. And there are many reasons for it, but the reason I'm talking about now is this general reason in society has programmed us to think, we have to be like everyone else now. And your parents may have programmed you to think that you have to be better or perfect. Now, there's a problem here, and the key is, if I notice that you have qualities I don't have, how can I be inspired by that without becoming jealous or envious, or without it making me feel bad? Because on one hand, we're saying, maybe I don't have that nature, I don't have those qualities. And by seeing them in you, I can become very discouraged, because it reminds me that I don't have that. It reminds me that you are super intelligent, and that means I'm not super intelligent because I don't think like you. You're super qualified in a certain way, and that reminds me I'm not that qualified. I can't figure things out like you can. So that could make me very depressed, but it could inspire me. And so I would like to be inspired by the fact that you have a certain level of intelligence I don't have. By being with you, by hearing from you, by reading what you've written, by seeing how you think, I can expand my intelligence. It's a fact, and I may never be as smart as you, but I can become inspired by you to be more of what you're like without becoming discouraged. So that's a tricky area, because some of us become discouraged when we see it. Oh, I'll never be that person's so intelligent, and if he's so intelligent, that means I'm so stupid. You're not stupid, but you might think you're stupid in comparison to him. And shouldn't I aspire to be intelligent like him? Yes, I should, but then you think, well, I'll never be that intelligent. That's okay. I will never be as intelligent as Albert Einstein. But if I read something that Albert Einstein writes, then I become more intelligent. So that's good. So, all right, it's okay. I'll never be as intelligent as Albert Einstein. It's okay. Most people won't. But can I become more intelligent? Sure. Do I have limitations? Sure. Can I be inspired by Albert Einstein, or should I be envious of him? I can be inspired by him. So it's a little tricky, because often when we're around people who are more qualified, it makes us feel bad. It makes us feel, oh, look at me. Rather than, oh, you're an inspiration to me. So either one or the other is going to happen. We're either going to get inspired by that person and think, oh, I want to be like them. I want to study their life. I want to see what they're doing. Or I'm going to become discouraged, most likely because it's a peer or somebody similar to us. Oh, how could I be like them? I'll never be like them. And as they become successful, I could become distressed or upset. Why are they successful? Why can't I be? I don't like you. You're successful. You should like him because he's successful, and you can learn from him how to be successful. That's the idea. So I'm saying here, I am fine the way I am is not how this devotee was programmed. This devotee was programmed, I'm not fine the way I am. Their parents told them something's wrong with you. Somebody told them something's wrong with you. Somehow or other they're thinking something's wrong with me. I'm not good enough, smart enough, thin enough, strong enough, beautiful enough, whatever it is. And so now they've got this belief in them. So that's the next paragraph. You have been programmed to believe otherwise. In other words, to believe you're not okay the way you are. Then you might say, but isn't it good to think I'm not okay the way I am, because that becomes an impetus to improve? In other words, if I think I'm okay the way I am and I'm just lazy and I'm not successful at anything, then I'll continue being lazy and unsuccessful. That's true. The proper psychology is, I am okay the way I am, and I can be better, and I want to be better, and I will try to be better. I will try to do my best. That's proper psychology. But if you start from the the platform, there's something wrong with me and I have to fix myself, that's not inspiring. That's not proper. That's not the proper attitude. So yes, we can be better, but for many of us, thinking I can be better becomes a negative rather than a positive, because the thinking I can be better is based on there's something wrong with me, rather than there's nothing wrong with me, but I can be better. So we have to start from this platform as I'm okay, but I can be better in a positive way. We can all be better, and we all should be better, and we should all grow every day. If we don't grow, we'll become miserable, because life is meant for growing, for learning. Yes? Isn't it? Okay. You have been programmed to believe otherwise, to believe other than I'm fine the way I am. But, in other words, your parents might say, I don't want you to think that you're fine the way you are, because then you won't try, you won't do as well, you won't compete, you won't be successful. And these generally are parents who want you to be materially successful. So their motive is to push you, to try to compare you to other people so you can try to be as good as they are or outdo them. But unfortunately, for many people, that makes them feel there's something wrong with them, or they're not good enough, or they're not perfect. So it creates a negative psychology. So then thinking there's something wrong with them, when they grow up as adults, has a very negative effect on them. But their parents just wanted to motivate them, but they didn't know how. So they motivated them in a way that had very negative effects on them, and made them feel like there was something wrong with them. So that's what we're saying. You've been programmed to believe otherwise, and to believe otherwise that you're fine the way you are. But understand that these beliefs can be changed to something more suitable, to something you want to believe. Now, I've read this and I've seen this many times. When we have negative thoughts about ourselves, that I'm not good enough, or something's wrong with me, or I'm not perfect enough, or whatever it is, usually those are not your thoughts. Those are someone else's thoughts about you that have told you that. And therefore, you're repeating what they said, and that becomes your self-image. But it's not actually your perception of yourself. It's someone else's who is, for whatever reason, trying to motivate you or trying to put you down because they have their own problems. And so you're repeating what they said. A lot of times, I see this in my counseling, that someone will say that their parents were pushing them to be something specific, and they weren't that. And their parents wanted that for themselves, but they didn't get it, so they wanted vicariously to live through their children. They wanted their children to achieve a certain kind of success, the success that they wanted. But then their kids may not be inclined to that success, and then they make their kids feel bad because they feel bad about themselves. So, why aren't you good at this? In other words, they're saying, I wasn't good at it, I'm frustrated, I want you to be good at it so I can live through you and be satisfied that I accomplished what I should have accomplished that I didn't accomplish through you. So, but it may not be your nature or desire to accomplish it. And so they're always putting you down because they feel bad. And of course, as a kid, you won't understand that, and you may not even understand it as an adult. But anyone who's constantly putting you down, obviously, they have problems, and they're frustrated with something. But when we identify that they're describing what's wrong with us rather than what's wrong with them, then we have those thoughts that there's something wrong with me, I feel this way, that way. I hope that makes sense. It's not your thoughts. It's not your words, it's their words, but now you think it's you think you're telling yourself these things. You think you've analyzed yourself, but you haven't. It's their analysis. It's become your analysis, but it's not really your analysis. Hare Krishna. So, let's keep reading. You can change these beliefs to something more suitable. Like a more suitable belief would be, I'm okay the way I am, right? I'm fine. The way I am, I'm fine. That's a suitable belief. I'm okay the way I am. Okay, as we said before, I'm okay the way I am, but I can be better. So I'm okay the way I am doesn't mean that I can make excuses for my failure. It just means as a person, as an individual, I'm equipped with ability, intelligence, with a certain kind of karma, a certain body, it's all okay. And I can improve myself, and I should improve myself, and I will improve myself, because we can all be better. And because we can be better doesn't mean there's something wrong with us. That's not how Prabhupada dealt with us. Prabhupada taught us this whole process of Krishna consciousness, from the very beginning of your practice all the way to love of Krishna. But he didn't make us feel there's something wrong with us because we don't have love of Krishna. He made us feel there's something right with us because we're practicing Krishna consciousness. So what I found in my life is one of the most inspiring and you could say soothing things is wherever you see a lack, to work on improving it. Because you're working on improving it, you feel a sense of accomplishment, a sense of satisfaction, that this lacking is not going to remain with me my entire life, but I'm working to improve it. So it gives this sense of we're moving forward. So I may not be satisfied that I'm lacking in this way or that way. And rather than that gnawing on me and becoming a negative, if I work on it, it becomes very positive. Yes, I'm working on this. I have this fault. I have this negative characteristic. I have this nature that I need to improve, and I'm working on it. And you feel very good, not because you got the result, but because of the fact that you're trying to improve. That's the idea. They say enjoy the journey. Well, it's not just the result. The fact that I'm sincerely engaged in Krishna consciousness, I'm sincerely engaged in trying to improve myself. That's where tons of satisfaction comes from. Not necessarily from the result. If your satisfaction comes from the result, then you have to wait. If your satisfaction comes from the sincere effort to try to be better and improve yourself, then immediately you get satisfaction right from the very beginning that I'm trying. I'm being sincere in my efforts. You can ask yourself what you would prefer to believe about yourself. What would you want to believe in order to function better, be more self-accepting? In other words, we're saying that you have certain beliefs about yourself, which I'm not good, or whatever they are that are negative. And so we have to ask, well, what would you rather believe about yourself? Like I'm okay, or I have sufficient intelligence to achieve success, or I'm sincere, I'm honest, I'm genuine. Like, what would you like to think about yourself? Because you can think about yourself in a way that you could see or you could analyze would be most helpful, what would be most productive. Because a lot of times we think about ourselves in unproductive ways. So we can just ask the hypothetical question, if I could think about myself in any way, what would be the most productive way to think about myself? As we're saying here, choose it. Well, obviously you would say something like, well, I'd like to be self-accepting, accept myself as I am. I'd like to see my talents. I'd like to be able to always be connected with a feeling that I'm a good person, a successful person, so on like that. So you can choose how you think about yourself. And the amazing thing about Srila Prabhupada is that he didn't look at our faults. He looked at, number one, he looked at our potential, because if he didn't look at our potential, he wouldn't have initiated us. And there's a story which I've told where Prabhupada's disciples were being criticized. They went to India, and they were Americans. They didn't know Indian culture. They were even like stealing things at Loi Bazaar, stealing sweets and things, because they thought, well, everything's for Krishna. And, eating in the wrong way. Bhaktidas wants me to eat more. I don't gain weight when I eat. Actually, I like eating less. I feel better. Anyway, that way I'll look like a sadhu. But I take a lot of supplements. I'm okay. So, Americans, they have a culture, and these were hippies. And they're doing basically everything wrong. Eating in the wrong way, talking the wrong way. There's a culture in India that's expected of devotees, and they didn't know it. They were just being Americans. So one man complained to Prabhupada and said, your disciples, they don't have culture. They're doing everything wrong. And Prabhupada said, yes, I know. He said, but their qualification is they will do anything I ask of them. So despite all their disqualifications, what did Prabhupada focus on? He focused on the qualification that his disciples had, that whatever he asked of them, they would do. That meant that they're sincere. The Prabhupada saw that sincerity. And that's what he was seeing within us, was this desire or this willingness to do whatever he asked. Qualification-wise, we had very little. Sincerity-wise, I believe we had a lot. We had, the willingness to accept Prabhupada's instructions and give our lives to that. And Prabhupada saw that, and Prabhupada was very happy with that. I want to read, I was searching on the database the word "I'm very pleased," and you could find many, many, many letters where Prabhupada saying, "I'm very pleased with you." But what he's showing he's pleased about is not necessarily what they've accomplished, but more their attitude. So here's a letter. I'm very pleased that although you are the youngest of my disciples amongst the boys, your sentiments are very highly developed. Please continue to feel Krishna in the same way and chant regularly without fail, and you will improve more and more. So what does Prabhupada glorify here? Your sentiments. He was expressing his feelings of appreciation to Srila Prabhupada. He was expressing his devotional sentiments. And Prabhupada's saying, I'm very pleased with that. There's nothing external that he accomplished. There wasn't an analysis of his past. There wasn't an analysis of his capabilities. It was just an analysis. It was just an appreciation of who he was as a person, trying to be Krishna conscious. Here's another devotee. He's become the president of the Los Angeles temple. I am very pleased to learn that you have taken complete charge of the Los Angeles temple and do it very nicely. What is this Prabhupada saying? He's just taken charge of it. He's saying do it nicely, which means he hasn't started. But what is Prabhupada pleased with? That the devotee is willing to do this. Not that he's qualified to do it, because Prabhupada's saying do it nicely, which means we don't know how nicely you'll do it. But I'm pleased that you've taken this responsibility. As many of you know, I had the responsibility to be a temple president very early on, as Bhaktidas also and many of us did. And it's not that we were such great temple presidents, but we were trying, and Prabhupada appreciated that. And I think that's very important, that if we look at externals, someone's smarter than someone else, someone's better at something than someone else, someone's more attractive than someone else, that's going to be there. That's not what we're looking at. It's not what Prabhupada looked at. What we need to cultivate and look at is our own faith and our own sincerity, because that's what's most important in Krishna consciousness. So even materially, I may feel bad or feel negative about myself, but if I can give my sincerity to Krishna, Prabhupada appreciates that and Krishna appreciates that. And society may put me down, my parents may have put me down, so many people may have put me down. But if my spiritual master, Srila Prabhupada, Krishna appreciates my sincerity, that's what should matter to me. Just like Prabhupada said, you evaluate anything based on how much pleasure it gives to Krishna. So materially you may be successful, but not please Krishna, or materially not so successful, but by your life, your attitude, you're pleasing Krishna. So then you're a success. By our standards, that's what success is. So if I'm sincerely serving Krishna, I may be whatever. I may be the lowest of the low. I may have so many bad qualities. I may think I have so many problems. But if I'm sincerely serving Krishna, Krishna's pleased. And if Krishna's pleased, Prabhupada said, then what more do you want? Here's another letter. I am very pleased to learn that you have got a nice, beautiful, Krishna-conscious child. So raise her to full Krishna consciousness and engage yourself, your husband, and family, and be very happy. And your family will be very beautiful, happy family. You will enjoy in this world, in the next life, and the next world. It will all be nice by the grace of Krishna. So, what did this devotee do? They gave birth to a devotee child who they plan to raise in Krishna consciousness. And that is something, you could say, quite common. Every family is having children. Practically every woman on the planet is having children. Nothing really that special in a sense. I mean, it is special, but it's common. And Prabhupada saying, I am pleased that you're having a Krishna conscious child. Something which is not difficult to do. But because there's this effort to raise the child in Krishna consciousness, Prabhupada is pleased. You probably know that Prabhupada said the secret to success is to please the Guru. And Prabhupada didn't make it difficult to please him. And I would also like to say that if we have very negative feelings about ourselves, that's not pleasing Prabhupada. Because Prabhupada came to make us happy. And he gave us Krishna consciousness, and he wanted us to be happy with Krishna consciousness. So it makes Prabhupada happy to know that we're happy with it. Just like many times people would write letters of appreciation to Prabhupada. They said, I appreciate this Krishna consciousness so much, it's changed my life. Prabhupada was so happy to get those letters because that was his mission. He came to the West to change people's lives. Didn't he? So he was happy. He was very happy to know that he was making other people happy. So it's something to meditate on. It's not like sometimes we feel that if I feel bad, I'll be pleasing Krishna because Krishna knows that I'm bad, and I shouldn't feel good if I'm bad, or if I'm failing my spiritual master, I'm failing Prabhupada, I should feel bad. Yes, that's true. But there's different kinds of feeling bad. There's feeling bad that makes you go forward, and there's feeling bad that makes you go down. So yes, I should feel bad, but feel bad in a way that makes me go forward in Krishna consciousness, that makes me take up the process more. That would please Prabhupada, that I made a mistake, I'm correcting it, I'm going forward. It won't please him to just, oh, I feel bad, so what's the use, why go on, I'm not worth it. That doesn't please him. So we should never fall into that trap thinking that if I feel bad, and continually feel bad, that will please Prabhupada because after all I am bad, and it would be bad not to feel bad because I am bad. That's a real trap. Should I say that again? I am bad, and therefore if I don't feel bad, I would feel bad that I didn't feel bad, and it would be bad not to feel bad if I am bad. Did you get it? It's such a trap. But you can't move forward if you're feeling bad that way. Yes, I may have done something bad and I feel bad, but Krishna consciousness is good and I appreciate it and I want to be sincere and to move forward and not get stuck in feeling bad to the degree that I become handicapped, only to the degree that it inspires me to move forward. So it's a difference between a constant state of feeling bad and a temporary state. Oh, I did something bad, let me improve. The constant state of feeling bad is an identity that I am bad. It's not an identity that Prabhupada ever gave to us. It's not an identity that he wants us to have. And I think that's important to understand. He doesn't want us to have that identity. What is the identity Prabhupada gave to us? I'm servant of Krishna, I'm eternal, plus full of knowledge. That's the identity. So, we need to live in our potential, what I am and what I can be, and the future is bright because we have such a nice process. That's the idea. as I was saying before, when you work on getting better a little bit every day, it's so encouraging because you can see that if you continue this way, things will get better and better and better. So you want to be living your life in a way that you can see it. If I continually do this every day, things will get better. My consciousness will get better. My actions will get better. I will be better as a person. I will feel better about myself. And then sometimes devotees say, well, is it important to feel good about myself? And I would say, I don't think that's the right question to ask. I think a better question to ask is feeling good about myself part of Krishna consciousness? And it is, because we're blissful by nature. So a Krishna conscious person, what does Krishna say in the Gita? He thinks there's nothing greater. He's gained Krishna consciousness. He's enjoying life from within. He's relishing, you know that verse? He relishes, enjoys life within, and he thinks there's no greater gain. So yeah, that is a sign of Krishna consciousness, that you do feel good about yourself. You as a spiritual being, and you as a disciple, follower of Srila Prabhupada who loves and accepts you, who wants you to be Krishna conscious, who doesn't judge you the way you may judge yourself. Yeah, it's very important. Like, I want to read some more of these I'm very pleased letters because I think it gives you the vision of how. Another thing, very simple to do, and Prabhupada says, I'm very pleased. I'm very pleased that you are serving your husband nicely and helping him so that he may advance in Krishna consciousness. Simple thing, you know. Wives serve their husband. It's a natural thing. Wives help their husband. And Prabhupada is happy. He's pleased with this woman because she's serving her husband. Prabhupada once went to Los Angeles and he was looking at the deities there and very intently. And the head pujari saw Prabhupada looking very intently at the deities. And then that day or the next day, she got a message that Prabhupada wants to see you. And she was thinking, oh no, what is Prabhupada going to say? He was looking very intently at the deity. And she was thinking, I did something wrong, he's going to fault me or whatever. And then Prabhupada said, I want to thank you so much for taking care of the deities so nicely. So Prabhupada could see by looking at the deities that she was taking care of them very well. And he said, this lifetime you'll go back to Godhead. So now Prabhupada was pleased. So easily pleased that you do your service nicely. And she's thinking, oh, what have I done wrong? You know, that's natural. We have that guilty conscience. How can I please the pure devotee? But Prabhupada was not difficult. He was not difficult to please. Prabhupada wasn't looking at ourselves the way we look at ourselves. He wasn't looking for the faults. You know, as a guru, sometimes he has to, but I think it's interesting that we probably look at our faults more than our own spiritual master looks at them. And the duty of the guru is to look at the faults, and we're looking at them more than he is. So Prabhupada knows that we need encouragement. And so basically Prabhupada was encouraging us most of the time. That's what we were getting from him, was encouragement, not criticism. Because Prabhupada wanted us to feel good about Krishna consciousness, feel good about being a devotee, feel good about ourselves and our contribution. He wanted us to feel that we had some value, some worth, that we were useful. And if you read enough of Prabhupada's letters, you'll see that theme comes out again and again. Here's another one. Let's get another one. I had chosen these in advance. Here's another one. This is Devotee Prabhu. He had just he was graduating university. Prabhupada says, I'm very pleased that you're graduating from college in a few days and anxious to engage your labors in spreading Krishna consciousness movement. So everyone, so many people graduate college, not such a difficult thing to do. And Devotee Prabhu told Prabhupada, I want to use this in your service. And Prabhupada, I'm very pleased that you So my point is, it's a little thing. You have some ability, something you've learned in school, and now you want to employ that in Krishna consciousness. Prabhupada's pleased. We don't have to look like movie stars. We don't have to be Albert Einsteins. We don't have to be virtuosos, musicians. We don't have to be this or that. We just have to be sincere in trying to please Krishna and be satisfied with our own sincerity. That's really an important mantra. Be satisfied with your own sincerity. If you are sincere, be satisfied with that. That's the root of the satisfaction that we can manifest, which would inspire us and expand our service to Krishna. Can I sincerely serve? And of course we can. Can I do some little things sincerely? What was Mother Teresa said? If you can't do big things with love, and do little things with love, something like that. Like, if you can't do something big, do whatever you can. And I just read this amazing thing yesterday. Prithu Prabhu, in his offering this year, said that he had spoke to a man who knew Prabhupada in the old days. And he said, Prabhupada in the old days, when he first went to Vrindavan, was living in stark poverty. He had a very small room, didn't have sufficient anything. And this man helped him get out of that room. Prabhupada was getting sick, he didn't have heat, air conditioning, sleeping on the floor. And, it would appear at that time that Prabhupada was not really doing much, or not significant, or could feel bad. What am I doing? And he said that he used to walk where our temple is now in Raman Reddy and see Prabhupada just sitting there, which was just farmland or forest, doing kirtan all day, in Vrindavan. So we think, okay, that's glorious. But maybe Prabhupada thought, what am I doing? I'm just here in Vrindavan chanting, the whole world's going to hell. I'm doing nothing. Of course, Prabhupada wasn't doing nothing, and it could be viewed even by others as something. But, that little kirtan, that little time in Vrindavan was the foundation for which the whole movement expanded. So all the little service we're doing is setting a foundation for more service, for growing, for being better. So even though we might feel, what I'm doing is not very significant, but continue. You grow from it. You'll get better. We're works in progress. It's okay. Wherever you're at is okay. It's okay that others are better than you. Virgo Paul says, I haven't been able to use my skills. Within the organization, you may not be able, directly within the organization, you may not be able to use your skills. You may have to create your own organization to use those skills. And what you'll find is, if not an organization separate from ISKCON, not that, but your own program, and if your own program is successful, then what you'll find is people will come knocking on your door and saying, can you show us how you do this? And sometimes that's the best way to influence an area of our movement where you may not be appreciated. And sometimes what we also find, we have this saying, an idea, his time has come. You may have a great idea, but that nobody relates to it. And so it's the wrong time, and 10 years later now everyone relates to it. So that's also a reality. At least I've seen that. And if you can't use it, still, it doesn't, you will find a way to use it if you think about it. It may not be within the structure as it exists, but there may be ways to use it. Even writing about it, even teaching about it, for those who want to learn management, even writing articles, just posting them. You might say, well, no one asked me to do it, but I think these are valid ideas I would like to express. And if even one person benefits from that, then that's a success. It's like Prabhupada said, you know, if I make one pure devotee, that's a success. And Prabhupada said, you know, don't write books to become famous, just write for your own purification. So I was just listening to this lady speak about a project she started, and she wanted to teach her son to do something for other people. So she said, every day we're going to do something for another person. We're going to give a gift. Boy, it was only 3 years old, so they decided, you know, to see some hungry person, give them prasadam, drop off some extra things we don't need at the Salvation Army. In this way, they figured out how to do something every day. And then she decided to create a blog post. And when you create a blog post, you don't have any readers. You just put it up and, you know, you think maybe someone will read it. You don't know. And this thing caught on like wildfire, this idea of serving another person. And one of her friends who's a teacher brought it into a school. And then it started going to different schools around. It started going around the world. So she was saying, I think it's an interesting idea, you know, we can apply it to seva in Krishna consciousness. But she was saying that research says that nothing makes people happier than serving, which we know, but it's nice to have the research. And so it caught on. And so my point is, she just did one thing with her son, wrote about it, and now she said there's about 50 schools, classrooms that are, you know, it must be more. She said 5,000 students are engaged in this program. The program's called 365 Gift, I think, or Give. So it's expanding. So sometimes, you know, if you feel discouraged, you have a certain capability and people aren't listening to you, you can just write about it or do a little project about it, or, you know, whatever. Teach a few people who want to listen, and then it can expand. Just like one of the Aspuja ceremonies in Mayapur for Jai Maharaj, some of the early devotees are saying, well, you know, the first ceremony we had, there were like 40 devotees here. Maharaj didn't have many disciples. Now he has like 30,000 or something. So, you know, you never know. But Prabhupada's point is, it's also not how successful you are, but it's that you're doing something to please your spiritual master. That's what's important. You know, and Prabhupada, when he came to America, said, you know, I was prepared to fail, but I wasn't going to compromise, because if I compromised what I teach, I would be failing my guru. So he never wanted to fail his guru. He would never allow himself to fail his guru, even though maybe materially he would have failed because people were not ready for Krishna consciousness. At least he thought, maybe they won't be ready, but I won't compromise. So that's there also. You know, there is this concept that I'm doing something, I'm pleasing my spiritual master. That's what's important. I'm pleasing Prabhupada, I'm pleasing Krishna. It may not have the greatest effect. I'm working on a project now, and I have this intuition that this project could grow and expand far beyond any concept that I ever had, and it could grow and expand way more after I'm gone, if it catches on and the right people take it and understand it and expand it. So maybe when I leave my body, this project will have achieved a little success. But maybe after I leave, 100 years later, it achieves international success. And I may die thinking, oh, I'm a failure, this project didn't go anywhere. You know, there are many, many great people who died poor because they weren't really discovered until after they died. And they may have died thinking, I'm quite a failure, and they became extremely popular, even well-known historical personalities who in their own lives were not appreciated so much. So, you know, there has to be a bit of self-appreciation, that you know you're sincerely doing something that's good and right and beneficial, and so just do it, no matter what. I was working on a CD years ago, and there was a devotee named Hans Christian, and he's had the band Rasa, and I appreciated his music, so I sent him the CD before it was, you know, mixed finally, and I said, so what do you think? Give me some feedback. What does it need? And he gave me some good feedback, and he said something I really appreciated. He said that, this is something that's in your heart, it's your creativity, so it has to come out, whether it goes viral or small or whatever. You have to do it. It's your devotion. It's your service to Krishna. And, sometimes I think, we've sold a few thousand of those, and, it hasn't, it's not like hundreds of thousands, which I thought it would, because I'm so proud, because I thought it was so good. But it doesn't mean in the future that couldn't happen, or one song gets picked up and, becomes the theme song for a movie. I mean, you don't know these things. But the attempt was, let's sincerely try to please Krishna and try to help other people with what we're doing. And whatever happens, happens. But as long as we're sincere, everything's good. And we can, I'm very convinced of this, that we can find deep fulfillment and satisfaction in our own sincerity, our own honesty, our own purity of intention to serve and please. And that's what's important. And, externally, you see different people just have different karma, different abilities. For some people, some things are so easy to manage projects, make them successful. You look at someone like Gopal Krishna Maharaj, who's just opening so many temples and projects, just amazing. And you look at other disciples of Prabhupada, and they don't have those abilities. They have other abilities. They can write books, or they can give lectures, or they can, counsel people, or they're very personable with people, or they can raise funds, or like this. Everybody has some ability, and that's just what Krishna gives us in this life. And I think it's really important to take those abilities and employ them in Krishna consciousness as best you can, without comparing yourself to others, and without necessarily being attached to the result. We should be intentional about results. I think that's good. But not attached, so that we become depressed when the results aren't there. Is that okay for an answer? I think that the nature or the reality of an organization is an organization, at least that I've seen the ISKCON organization, it's going through stages like a person growing. And as you grow at different stages of your life, different things become important to you. And as ISKCON grows, different things become important. And I've seen ideas surfaced 20, 30, 40 years ago that just fell on deaf ears. But now it's like the latest craze in ISKCON. All the leadership is talking about one particular thing that was spoken about years ago, but for some reason it was falling on deaf ears. So knowing that, I don't think we should ever stop. What we know is right and true. And I mean, sometimes, you just get a realization. Krishna tells you, this is really important. We need to do this. And you might talk about it with people, and people are like, yeah, that sounds good. It's not resonating with people, but in your heart it's resonating. You know that if we don't do this in the future of ISKCON, we're going to suffer in different ways. So you just have to run with it, with your own inspiration, and do what you can do. And I think a lot of times what's going to happen is you'll run with the inspiration, and maybe you won't even be here, and 30, 40 years later, when the movement's ready for it, they're going to find things that you did, and they're going to say, oh my God, look at what Vera Gopal did. He outlined this whole thing that we're trying to do. He wrote this whole, thesis on, why things are going the way they are, and so forth. And I know for myself that sometimes I just feel very strongly about something that's needed. I feel Prabhupada's inspiring me, and even though sometimes it falls on deaf ears, I don't give up, because I can see it in my real life and my interactions with people, what they need. It's just like many of you know that a lot of what I preach is not exactly the way everyone preaches. And sometimes people may question, well, why do you preach that way? And or like this class, it's not exactly what you will hear from a senior devotee, a class on self-love or self-esteem. But I see the need for it. I see it as a problem. It's a real problem that I'm confronted with all the time in my counseling. And although I can find Shastric reference for it, it's not, the Shastra is not exactly dealing with it as I'm dealing with it, but I'm dealing with it as I see it needs to be dealt with, and I'm trying to verify that this is basically the mentality Prabhupada had in dealing with us, to uplift us, to make us feel good about our position as attempting to be devotees. And so I'm convinced of the importance of it, because I see that this problem of low self-esteem is becoming epidemic due to the fact of people being raised with parents who are somewhat incapable, or being raised by single parents, or society setting standards for us of perfection that are impossible to achieve. And so I'm passionate about it. And you'll find if you intuitively feel something is important and you go for it, you will find you may find that you'll find a lot of people resonate with it. It may not be the people in power necessarily, or the people you want to resonate with it, but if you're, if something is real, it's natural, it's where life is at, and you talk about it, people will resonate with it. So that's my experience. And so if you feel that way, just go for it. Even if you can't function, it doesn't work within the structure of present, the way ISKCON is, you can work within ISKCON, within your own department. It's like you could say a silent revolution. In other words, if you do something well, people are going to want to know about it. You do something, and then at a leadership sangha, you speak about, this is what I've done, these were the challenges, this is the needs that I saw that were not being met in ISKCON. And this is what we've done, this pilot project, these are the results, this is the feedback, like that. Is that okay? So, does anyone have any questions? Silent revolution. No, you do it in a way, you don't try to bring attention to what you're doing. If I find myself, if you think well about something and you understand the situation with ISKCON, you understand the reality on the ground with devotees and the challenges they have, and you write about it, talk about it in a way that aligns what's going on with the way the world is, the way people think, with nature, then it'll be appreciated. That's my experience. Like a lot of things I talk about, it's interesting because I was thinking, we have this, like a devotee, he asked me a question, as the Godbrother asked me a question, what do you think about this? And I said, I think about it both according to Shastra, but also according to what I see on the ground. Because sometimes if you look at something through the eyes of Shastra without relevance to what's going on the ground, you could misunderstand, or you could not be relevant. So I think we also have to see realities on the ground. And this reality on the ground that I see is with young people today. I think in my generation, the parents were better. There was no divorce, of course, it was illegal. But I think they were better parents. Most of the mothers stayed home. They didn't have to work. That was the culture. And I think most of the kids were much more well adjusted. And I'm finding kids today, not all are not well adjusted, but many are not, because they've come from troubled families, or their parents are frustrated, or the economy is such that the parents are working so much. My mother didn't have to work. My father didn't even have to work that hard. Economy was so good when I grew up. So it was quite a stable situation. I may have, personal problems just because of my nature, and I work on those problems to try to improve myself, but I don't think I have problems because of how I was raised. Because I was raised in a very supportive environment. And, I was raised to have a healthy sense of myself. So, and devotees have even pointed out to me, said, you have a healthy sense of yourself because sometimes you make fun of yourself. or you're very vulnerable and you tell people your faults and say, unless you have a healthy sense of yourself, you can't publicly admit to a fault, and it's a healthy state to be in. You can do that, and it doesn't efface your sense of self-worth. So I think, I got that from having good parents. So a lot of us are not getting that today, and I think it's a real issue that we have to deal with. So I see a lot of things on the ground that need to be addressed, and because I see them as realities, and I see how I've been able to help people, I feel confident that if I continue doing it and teaching this way, it will be beneficial to the movement and people will appreciate it. And if they don't appreciate it, then they would have to show me a better way of dealing with it, or I'd have to make them aware that this is a real problem. Maybe you're not aware of it, but it's a real problem. Sometimes, I've spoken about this before, that sometimes, I know this is awkward to say, but sometimes we put too much faith or trust in the philosophy, or we expect the philosophy to solve things for us that we really need to work on ourselves. Like an example is we've had many troubles in Grihastha ashram. So we think, well, just be a better devotee, it will solve my Grihastha problems. Well, in theory that's true, but you have to work on the specific problems, and sometimes being a better devotee, you end up avoiding working on the problems. So it makes it worse. So, we have to be able to look at these things realistically and not just have canned statements. Well, you just chant Hare Krishna, all your problems will go away. Well, for some people, they chant Hare Krishna, and as a result, they neglect facing their problems. They want the holy name to resolve the problem, and they actually run away from the problem. So in some cases, the holy name will resolve the problem. In some cases, they're actually running away from the problem, and they need to deal with it, and not just chant and avoid it. Now that sounds like a controversial statement, because you can say, but I thought the holy name is the solution for all problems. It's the solution for all material contamination, but we've seen, at least in other areas, it may not be a solution in itself. You may have to address the issues. You have a relationship problem, you need to address the issues. Maybe by chanting, Krishna will reveal the issue, he'll humble you, he'll purify you. That does happen. But in some cases, we actually run away from facing the issue by taking shelter of the holy name. So by taking so-called shelter, we're actually making the problem worse. It does happen. And so sometimes, I see this. And I know philosophically it's hard to justify that, but it's a reality. And I think we need to speak what's real sometimes, because it's real and we have to talk about it. And so don't be afraid to talk about what's real, because people will resonate with it because it's real. And if you have real solutions that support Krishna consciousness, they'll be appreciated. So, we have more to talk about. We have a class tomorrow. It starts at 6:15, which is 2 hours and 15 minutes earlier than the class started today. That's 6:15 a.m. and that's for Australian time. So that's 8:15 p.m. in Australia. So that will be good timing for many of you who live east of us. If you live west of us, west coast of US or Hawaii, it'll be too early. But if you live further east, it'll be good, because in Europe that'll be like 11 or 12. In India, it'll be early afternoon. Okay, so we'll end here, and hopefully we'll see you tomorrow. Hare Krishna. Srila Prabhupada ki jai.